Welcome to Mismatched, everyone. Together we're going to unpack the chaos, laugh through the cringe, and find love in all its forms. Hopefully. My name is Nicole and this is Mismatched. So you might be asking, what qualifies you to kind of give advice on relationships and love? And well, I wanted to tell you a little bit about me. So I have definitely had some unique, I will say, stories and scenarios throughout my 20s and 30s and teens, actually, I would even say. I'll tell you, I wouldn't sleep with a guy and then he broke up with me. Another guy that I dated was actually, we were in a full-on relationship and he went behind my back and was applying to be on The Bachelor while we were together. I was also faced in another relationship where I had to choose a Peloton or dating him. Needless to say, I chose the Peloton. I dated a guy where we were in a full-on relationship. I found another woman's underwear under his mattress. Didn't end well. So as you can see, I've been through that's just a little taste of some of the scenarios and things that I've kind of experienced. And so what this is just me sharing that with all of you. Some of the qualities I would say that make me an expert is that legitimately I was born on Valentine's Day, like February 14th, the day of love. Cupid struck and I was born, and I'm so obsessed with the concept of love. I grew up in this world of fairy tale and Disney and finding your Prince Charming and yeah, I've learned it doesn't quite work that way, but that's okay because we're in this together. I also consider myself qualified to do this because I've literally played matchmaker for a bunch of my friends. I can count on two hands, honestly, and they're actually married. And I can't promise that they're happily married, but they are married and still in relationships. So there's that. I have success on that note as well. And I've been through a lot of heartbreak for one girl. Let's just say that. So I've had a lot of lessons along the way. And all I want to do is kind of share those with you and build a little community with Mismatched. And, because dating in 2025 is hard. It's not easy to find love. Which app are you using? How do you respond? Are you video chatting? Do you really know someone? You think you really know someone, but then you don't really know someone. So it's a really, really interesting time. And I think we live in a world and a generation right now where values and morals are not as simple as they once were once upon a time. So we're going to unpack all of that. And I'm going to bring in some friends, even family. I'm going to bring in some authors and experts, psychologists. And of course, we have some pop culture guests that are going to be in here too that can certainly weigh in as well. But I also want to hear from all of you. So I hope we can build a little community. And at the end of the day, like I said, find love and in all its forms. That's what this is about as well. It's about finding love. I think something that I've learned in my 30s is self-love. That wasn't always kind of the goal growing up. So that's something that I really plan to explore and kind of share with all of you as well. So I think it would be a good time right now to maybe share a story with you. And I think what's more appropriate than kind of your first love or your first heartbreak. So I'm going to take you back down memory lane, my friends, and go back to high school days. So it's so funny because going into high school, I sincerely just wanted two things. I wanted a locker and I wanted a boyfriend because I hadn't had two of those before. So good news is grade 9 within the first week, I got both those things. So the guy that I ended up dating, he was a year older than me. And it's funny because the entire high school kind of predicted that we would get together. I had an older brother. And, so I was kind of known in the high school before I even went to the high school. And all that to say is they kind of paired us together. He was like the jock of the school, and I was kind of the girly girl, that didn't wear her uniform properly, but was on student council and super keen. And we didn't have a cheerleading squad, but if we did, I would certainly be a part of that. And that's kind of the pairing, if I could paint the picture for you. Within the first week of high school, like I said, we quickly met, and it was the boy meets girl, very shy and coy. And I was like, 14, 15. So quite young, and there's not much that you can like go out and date and do. So what did we do back then in the day? We went to the movies. It was a double date as well because I was not allowed to go alone. I didn't even have a cell phone at that point. So, we went to a movie. It was a little bit of hand holding and a big hug. And I was like freaking out. Oh my gosh, all the butterflies, all the feels. And we fell in love. I actually got a cell phone because of that relationship. I had a very protective older brother. And I used to use the landline. Remember when there was a landline? And so I would speak to my boyfriend at the time on the landline, and then my brother would interrupt the call and pick it up and say like, "Get off the phone! You're not allowed to talk to my sister." And I would obviously break out crying and be so upset and like beg my mom and dad, "I need privacy. I need a phone." So that's how I got a cell phone, and then finally we were able to have private conversations. We dated for almost 3 years in high school. So there was a lot with that relationship. And it was interesting because my older brother was actually friends with his older brother. So we knew their family very well. I went over their house for dinner often, and the same for him and my family, Christmas and holidays. And we actually went away together. I was with his family, but I'm still shocked to this day that my parents allowed me to do that at that age. But anyway, it was obviously because they trusted me. So that's good. I even remember our first kiss, we were at a friend's house. We were in the basement and we were watching a movie. And then he kind of leaned over and said a cheesy line from the movie. Like I said, I'm a hopeless romantic. And leaned in, gave me a kiss. It was not what I thought it was going to be. It was messy and weird, but but we got better, and it was very sweet. It was very innocent until it wasn't. So sound effect. When you're with someone, and again, we were between the ages of 14 and 16, 17 that we dated. So, and he's a boy. He was a horny young boy. And so obviously he wanted to get into my pants. And I think it was for a number of reasons. Obviously it's because, you've been in a relationship with someone for a long time and he's thinking, this is going to be my first. And I think there was a bit of, the macho kind of masculinity. I've got this girl and I'm going to take her virginity from her. And, there was a bit of that mentality as well. So there was pressure that was put on me. I don't do well with pressure. When someone tells me what to do, I typically do the opposite. And I almost feel like if he had maybe gone about it differently, I may have, felt like I was ready, but I wasn't. I didn't feel ready, and I wasn't going to do something just because I was being pressured or asked to do it constantly at that. My response was always, no, I love you. I'm just not ready yet. I need you to be patient. And he'll, the question then would be, well, when are you going to be ready? Tell me when you're ready. And I was just I don't know, but I know it's a feeling within my gut, in my heart, and in my mind that I will know when something feels right. So I listened to my inner voice, and I'm so glad that I did. I'll never forget. It was his prom, and he had asked me to go with him. And then it followed up with, I'm going to rent a hotel room. We can have a special night together. I think it can be the night, And I said, well, you can do that, but I don't know that it will be the night. I'm I'm not making any promises to you, and I don't want you thinking that I'm going to do that if that's the only reason why you're taking me. And then literally via text message, after 3 years dating with this guy, but again, we're young. It was young puppy love, I guess. He says, I'm breaking up with you and I can't be with you. And, I'm going away to school and all these excuses. And I knew it was because I wouldn't sleep with him that he broke up with me. So anyway, I was devastated. I was more so infuriated, honestly, that he didn't have the balls to say it to my face. It was if you're going to break up with me, just say it. But he didn't obviously have the balls to say it to my face. So that was that. I was obviously devastated. And he obviously asked another girl to prom, not from my school, but a girl that I know he was hoping to get lucky with, obviously. And so that night on his prom, I was, of course, at my best friend's house crying, sobbing my eyes out, maybe I should have just done it. I'm so upset. And did I make a mistake? And I lost such a good thing. And my parents were high school sweethearts. That could have been me. And now it's not. And, the world is ending. And secretly I was like hoping he was having like a miserable time. I wasn't, above that. I don't know that I am above that yet. But anyway, that's besides the point. Funny enough, had a horrible time. Funny enough, at prom, and actually drove to my friend's house and was like begging for me back that prom night. So he didn't get lucky and he had a horrible time. And I said no, but it was years later, we kind of entertained it. And I, again, said, no, it's not going to work for me. The lesson here was listen to yourself. And once it's done the first time, it's probably for the best. But I will say I had to learn that lesson a few more times in my 20s. But we'll get to that another time. Another story that I wanted to share that I thought is quite funny is kind of like a WTF moment in my dating history. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier in this episode. And the WTF is when I found out that the guy I was dating was applying for The Bachelor at the same time. So it was like my mind was just blown. And I know this happens to some people on The Bachelor. Like you have that crazy ex-girlfriend that comes on the show and is like, this guy said he was in a relationship. And like, I literally saw myself in that moment. I had like an outer body experience of like, oh my God, people do this. Like this actually happens. Here's the thing. So I only found out after we had broken up. That was the caveat. And it was hilarious to me because of so many things. Like number one, I worked in TV and one of the assignments that I had was to cover The Bachelor. So like in what universe did this guy think that I was not going to find out that he was on the show? And then I would have interviewed him and outed him and the whole nine. So it was like, where is your head at, buddy? You did not think this through because either way, you're going to look really bad in this process. That was number one. Number two, like we dated for 8 months. We were in like a serious relationship. This was later in my 20s. And I like met his family. He had only brought in, I think, 2 girls home before that. And then lastly, it was like we watched the show together, which is hilarious to me. And all he would say is, this is such a stupid show. This is nonsense. These people are here for the wrong reasons. And then the guy goes, I found out because I know people and I love that, it just things always come back around. My grandfather would say, what comes around goes around. And that's like a very true statement. He does say it like that. And so yeah, word obviously got out. And based on like the timeline of how I kind of found out, it was so interesting because like it was lies, obviously, on top of lies that this was created. I remember like the weekend, he said he was on a boys' golf weekend. I won't really have my phone on me, but I'll try and get in touch with you when I can. Yeah, because there's a bloody time difference. That's why. And you're too busy hopping from interview to interview to message your girlfriend back home because he was in LA. That golf trip was by himself in LA doing interviews. Like he flew out there. So it was a real thing. Like he made it to the very end, but then said, no, I won't disclose why. I may or may not have had something to do with it. I actually, thank you to Apple and iPhone, because I was able to kind of look back through some messages. And so after we broke up is when I found out, like I said. And so I wanted to see like the text message that I sent him, because obviously when I found out, he needed to know that I knew why things didn't work out. We had initially broken up because I felt like he couldn't quite get to where I needed him to be. He hadn't said I loved you. And it was like after 8 months and all these things that we had done and gone through, if you can't say I love you at this point, I don't want to waste my time. And he was kind of, being standoffish, and there were signs, there was weirdness. We both kind of said, this is done and, it's just not meant to be. But, a little part of me was like, this is like weird. Like I felt like something was off. And then that's when I received the news about The Bachelor. And then that's when I was like, this guy is going to know that I know, because I know that it's going to drive him mad that I know this. So I found the text message, and I'm going to read it to you of what I sent. Hold on one second. Okay. Are you ready, folks? Here is the angry text message that I sent him. This is years ago. Okay. It says, I worked in the industry in case you've forgotten, and you've just given yourself a really poor reputation. Not because of me, but because people put two and two together and realized you were dating me whilst applying for the show. Honestly, it's the betrayal and going behind my back that was the most disappointing to hear because I actually thought you were a decent person. To find out you applied for the show, which you mocked while we were dating, is beyond me. You brought me home to meet your family while you were interviewing to be on the show. Really? I just hope you know it's not okay to do that to anyone, much less someone like me who has been nothing but good to you, more than you ever deserved. Don't mistake my kindness for weakness. You took advantage of my trust and sincerity. And I hope for the future you realize how small the world is and how you make decisions that won't come back to make you look the way that you do right now. So that was the message that I sent him, and it was preceded by multiple ding, 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 ding messages back, followed by phone calls, ignore, block, delete. So that was how I handled that relationship. And it's interesting because I bump into his friends every now and then, and I believe he's still single. There's that. And he didn't go on the show to find love. So wish you all the best. Those are just, a couple of anecdotes and stories. I have a few more than I'd like to admit that I cannot wait to share with you. Okay, everyone. So to get to know me a little bit better, we're going to do a little rapid fire game. So here we go. Let's see. Biggest ick. When a guy is rude to a waitress on a date. That's biggest ick factor. Toxic trait that I can't stand. Narcissism. A few stories about that one. Dream celebrity date. Theo James. If you haven't heard of him or seen him, Google him right now. You're welcome. My favorite dating show. This is really tough because I watch a lot of dating shows, but I love The Bachelor, The Bachelorette franchise. I love Love Island. I love Love is Blind. Temptation Island is great. Too Hot to Handle is great. So yeah, there's a bunch that I watch. Favorite rom-com. Hands down, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Kate Hudson is just the best. The most cringe thing I have done for love is probably, done something it's unsafe. I've driven like 3 hours in a snowstorm to see someone. Not smart. My go-to breakup song. This is so hard because I actually have a dedicated playlist that is for breakup songs. But I think like in the last, I'd say like 2 years, since it came out, this has been like, my raw anthem is definitely Flowers by Miley Cyrus. I can buy myself flowers. I'll stop. One piece of advice I wish I had never listened to. You wish that you never took. I'd say that, I've had a lot of people say to me, people don't change. And I completely disagree. I think people do change, but they themselves have to want to change. You can never force someone to change it. That has to come from them. So yeah, we're going to end it on that note, my friends. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Up next, we have a big reality TV celebrity guest who I'm like a huge fan of. I'm so excited to sit down with her. I will tell you that. But definitely stay tuned for that. And please follow along our journey. You can find me on Instagram at Mismatched Pod or on YouTube at Mismatched Podcast. And I can't wait to see you guys again. We'll see ya. That wasn't pretty.